So at this point in the service, we come to the sermon. And the sermon is the part of the liturgy of the Word where we expound on the text that is given us out of Holy Scripture, sometimes from the Old Testament, but most often from the Gospel. Because the sermon's important in our common life because it is the singular time when the preachers have an opportunity to reach the most people possible with a singular message. And the message that we take very seriously here is to create a lens, a Jesus lens through which we examine our own lives, and a Jesus lens through which we ask questions about how we act in the world, and a Jesus lens that gives us a model through which to have commentary on what is happening in the world. The fundamental question is, what would Jesus do in a situation like this? What would Jesus do if he had my life or your life? How would Jesus respond to this particular thing that's going on in the world? And so that, as Christians, is the core focus of what happens from the pulpit. Now, how we get there is through our own prayer life and our own study life as preachers, but also in crafting the sermon together as a team. At Epiphany, we have a team of people that come together every single week, Tuesday morning at 9:30, to do two things in particular. Number one, to review and critique the sermon that had happened the week before. That's very important. We only get better by critiquing and looking to grow, even if it's small and incremental. We do that. It's like with anything. It's Monday morning quarterbacking our sermons, and it is important. So while it's nice to always have people say nice things, the team we bring together is charged with looking for things that we might do better, so we can become better preachers along the way. And of course, that happens in a team environment. It's led by Kelly Martin. And she gathers us. The people that participate are preachers. Kate and I are the primary preachers here, but we also have a multitude of voices which come into this pulpit on a regular basis. Susan Pitchford, who's sitting right here. Lex Breckenridge is another preacher, and Kelly Martin herself preaches. The people who sit on that sermon consultation team are our preachers. They're Kelly and myself and Kate and Lex Breckenridge and Susan Pitchford. Also Pam Tinsley, who's a priest associated with our church, and Jad Bacalini, who is our communication director, and Dan Carlisle, who does any number of things here, including occasionally preaching. There's also one other person that participates, and it's one of you. We always try to bring a parishioner in so we can hear how they're hearing and experiencing the sermons that we preach. Then we read over the text that's coming for a week and a half, the Sunday that's a week and a half away, and we talk about that text. We talk about what's going on in the world. We talk about the questions that we have about the text itself. We do what we call exegesis on the text, and then the preacher then takes all of the information and the notes and the things, and they go away and they work on their sermons. We work on our sermons here. We consider that part of our duty, right? We know you work hard in your life. We know you set aside time to come here on Sunday mornings. We take the preaching role very seriously. The preacher writes their sermon. They give a draft to our communication director right from this pulpit, and he sits right where Mike Evans is sitting and critiques the sermon. Now, sometimes he tells us to go back to the drawing board. He never actually says go back to the drawing board, does he? He says something that indicates we should go back to the drawing board, and sometimes we do. His role is to ensure we have common theological language and consistency, even with the multitude of voices that we have from the pulpit, right? So Jad does that very, very well. The preacher then goes and works on the sermon, works on it until they deliver it from the pulpit on a Sunday morning. That is the strategy through which we create sermons, and we've done it for a very long time here at Epiphany. We then write our sermons out. We practice them a lot, so it doesn't seem like they're written out, but we write them out so we can give them to you before the service in the back. Sometimes for folks, it's easier to follow the sermon if they can follow the text in front of them. We also publish it on our website. We also include it, of course, in our YouTube of the service that morning, and we cut it out as a standalone entity on YouTube as well, so you can just watch the sermon, or if you're so inclined, you can just share the sermon with somebody out in the world. So that is the process of sermons in the life of this parish. And We hope it's helpful to folks wherever they are on their spiritual journey.